they're blaming white people for everything. Is that fair to the whites?
Look, I'm white, and they've never torn down a statue of me.
Because you don't
And if
have
they
one.
did have,
And so
I've
is
never
it
been
fair
called
that they're
a-
destroying white statues and putting up a loser statue like George Floyd? An unemployed drug addict with no job and a criminal record.
George Floyd's death.
No, I know about the death. I'm asking you, is it fair to destroy the statue of white men who founded and created the greatest country on this side of heaven and replace it with an unemployed drug addict with a criminal record statue? Is that right?
I'm here for it. I like it. Because those statues that are getting torn down are slave owners. They were terrible people, you know.
So you're okay with them destroying the white statues and putting up an unemployed drug addict?
Yeah. Take down the slave owners, put up the people that cause change, whether it's their life or their death.
Amazing.
Yes, guys, welcome to another very interesting installment of Culture War. Here, Jesse is going to be interviewing a young guy who's been a Christian for 27 years before he finally went left and beyond. Guys, this is very interesting. This video, I tell you, and very mind-boggling. Sometimes I feel pity for this young man, but you know, guys, you need to watch the video for yourself. Very interesting one, guys. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get more videos like this. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Very interesting guest today. I have with me the Joker of New Orleans. He is a magician. So the Joker, do I call you the Joker?
Yeah, you can call me that. That's fine.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Yes, sir. So how did you get the title the Joker?
I came up with my own original Joker cosplay and just made it like my everyday look. So
yeah.
I wear it when I perform, when I work, when I go out, and people just recognize me. So, you know, I kind of gave myself that title, but it stuck really well.
Oh,
That's
okay.
just what people know me as.
And do you wear it 24 hours a day?
If only. No, I obviously anytime I do wear it, I take it off before I go to sleep. But I don't put it on every day. If I'm not going out or making a public appearance somewhere or anything like that, then no, I don't put it on.
And how long does it take to put all that on?
Depends. Usually about 45 minutes, I'd say.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Amazing. So you are a magician, and how did you start that?
I got into it senior year of high school. I saw someone do a magic trick, and I couldn't figure it out. And then someone in my class told me how they'd figured it out. So I started performing it to all the underclassmen just as practice, and they were blown away. So I was like, you know what? Let me just start learning more. And I did. And it's one of those things that stuck with me ever since.
Oh, that's cool, man. And so what type of magician do you do? What are your tricks? The type of tricks?
I started with sleight of hand. That's mainly what I was doing for a while, but I've recently started like dabbling in like stuff like mind reading, influence, hypnosis, stuff like that as well. So I do a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's important to you?
What do you mean?
In your life, when you think about life, what's important to you?
Really the two main things, I want my kids to be safe and happy and healthy. And then I want to make a name for myself.
You want to make a name for yourself. What type of name you want to make for yourself?
A household one.
And what do you mean by that, make a name? What do you mean?
I want to be recognized all over the world.
And why?
I don't know. It's a dream that I've had since I was in like junior high school, to be famous and be renowned and stuff like that.
And what would that do for
I don't know. A lot of people like to say, like, you know, what if you could be rich or you could be famous, which one would you want? And I almost would argue that being famous is better. You know what I mean? Because you can be rich and walk into a restaurant and people don't know who you are. You're not going to get seated unless you're flashing money. But if you're famous, you walk in and everyone's like, make a seat for this guy. You know what I mean? So it's just like, just a quick off the top of the head example.
Oh, I see. And so if the choice was between being rich and being famous, you would rather be famous than rich?
Yeah, I'd rather be famous and then let the money come later. I'd rather work for the money, but I'd rather be famous. You know, I don't mind working for the money.
Amazing. Okay, that's interesting, man. And so would that make you feel better about yourself or something?
Yeah, it really would.
And how do you
For
feel
sure.
about yourself that you need to be famous to feel better?
No, that's a good question. I don't know. Part of me, I put a lot of my self-esteem on the opinions of others, but at the same time, which this is kind of an oxymoron, but I also don't really care what people think about me, hence the clown makeup. It's like, I don't know if you know who Fall Out Boy is, but they're a band, but they have one line in one of their songs and I love it. It says, I don't care what you think as long as it's about me. So as long as my name's in your mouth, that's all I care about.
Amazing. Would you feel better about yourself if that happened?
Yeah, probably. It would make me feel like, like I'm worth a little more, you know?
Yeah. And so would you consider yourself liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat? How are you in that area, or those areas?
I consider myself to be an extremely progressive leftist.
Really?
Yes.
When you say systemic, did you say systemic racism in the police department?
Yeah, there's certain policies and things like that.
Like what?
I mean, okay, so let me start off by saying this. In Los Angeles County, there were, 13 police gangs in just that one little area, that one police, I forget the term for it, but there were 13 gangs, most of them white supremacist gangs in the police system there.
And where'd you get that information from?
Another investigative journalist. He went and he did interviews. He was putting his life on the line by digging into that type of stuff.
That's amazing. And you believe that?
Yes, I do.
Is that because you want to believe it?
No, it's not because I want to believe it. I mean, when you look at the system as a whole, modern day policing has evolved, and it started as slave catchers.
What?
Yes. If you look into it, look it up. Slave catchers.
That's Rolling Stones about the.
Yeah, Rolling Stones was actually the one who talked about the police gangs over in Los Angeles. So, but anyway, yeah, it started as slave catchers, and then
that is crazy, man. Why you believe something like that? I grew up on a plantation in Alabama. That is dumb. That's not true at all.
Well, listen, after slavery was abolished, you don't think that it was strange that we started seeing laws like loitering laws, where the slaves, aren't slaves anymore, but they can't get jobs because no one's going to hire them. No one's used to paying Black people for their labor. So what do? They all they have to do all day is just hang around. So they make that illegal so that they can go arrest them, lock them up, and then make them work for free.
That's funny.
And it's a similar thing that we still have going on.
Do you believe that all slave owners were mean or nasty with their slaves?
No, I believe that there were probably slave owners that did not mistreat their slaves, but at the same time, just the simple fact of them owning slaves was a problem. But no, I don't believe they were all abusive or or mistreating their slaves, if that makes sense.
There are black slaves owners too at that time.
Okay. And
You put
I
them
haven't
in the
done
same
research about the
category?
I'm sorry?
Do you put them in the same category as you do the white supremacists, as you say?
Yeah, I don't think slavery was, I don't think racism was necessarily the heart issue of slavery itself. I think slavery was the issue by itself. It didn't matter if it was whites owning blacks, blacks owning blacks, blacks owning whites. It doesn't matter. Slavery in itself is a problem.
So you disagree with slavery? So when white people are enslaved or anyone is enslaved, you disagree with that?
Yeah, you're taking bodily autonomy away from a person.
Oh, I
It
see what
shouldn't
you're
matter
saying.
what race they are.
You said that there was white supremacy. Can you define white supremacy for me?
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with what Vosh said on your show. White supremacy, in my opinion, is just people who believe that whites are inherently superior to other races.
Oh, okay. And do you believe there's black supremacy?
Yes,
And how would you define that?
believing that black people are inherently superior to other races.
Oh, okay. White people seem to be smarter than blacks. You know, they tend to build wherever they go, they improve the area, not destroy the area. There are people saying that white people are genetically smarter than black. Do you believe that?
No, I don't.
And
I
why
think
not?
that
Why do you think black people destroy and white people build?
I don't necessarily believe that. I think that white people have had advantages with better education and things like that. Historically, if you look at Europe, there's so many, scientists that came out of there, whereas Africa, not so much, but you could easily chalk that up to, less hospitable conditions and things like that. Whereas white people, we've had really good education, even, in this country, throughout the history of this country, whereas black people have not been afforded that right or that luxury.
So how do you?
Yeah.
Go ahead. So yeah, what?
So if you do that over generations and stuff, I wouldn't say that they're inherently or genetically not as smart. There's just, information builds over time. My dad taught me, a lot of what he knows, plus what I've learned. His dad taught him what he knows. So information trickles down. Whereas if you cut that off, with slavery, then it's like there's not that much information to pass down.
So how much education do the blacks need in order to know that they should get married and raise their children and set a good example? You have to go to school for that.
Not really, but it goes back to, if you're raised in a household with happy parents and, y'all sit down, you eat dinner together every night, and, there's low crime, you've got a good education, all these factors play into that. You're probably going to be more successful in life. And black people, again, have had advantages like that withheld from them, stripped away from them, stuff like that.
So how do you explain that prior to the so-called civil rights movement, which should have never happened, that the blacks were doing better then than now? They were building, they bought land, they had what they call the Black Wall Street and all kind of things going on because they relied on themselves. And this was before the civil rights movement. How do you explain that they were doing, and they had families, and they were going to all black schools, and how would you explain that they were doing better before the civil rights movement than they are today?
So I wouldn't personally argue that they were necessarily doing better, but I'll give you the Black
But they
Wall
were
Street
doing
thing.
better. I was there.
Okay, fair. And you said you grew up where?
On a plantation in Alabama.
At least black people aren't growing up on plantations now. You know what I mean?
They did better. They were better off on the plantation because now they're mentally living on a plantation.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned Black Wall Street. There were like two Black Wall Streets that I've heard of, one in Tulsa and one in Philly. One was in like 1912, one was in like 1960 something. Which one were you referring to?
I was thinking of the one in Oklahoma.
Yeah, Tulsa. I think that was 1912. You know
And they
what
had
happened to
black
it?
banks in New York and other places. They were
You know what?
professional. They were those who wanted to go to college went to black universities because the black universities were good schools at the time. But I
Yeah.
want to know, how do you explain that the blacks were doing better then than they are today?
Well, do you know what happened to the Black Wall Street in
Yeah, I
Tulsa,
heard that
Oklahoma?
from the blacks forever. That's just another excuse. But how do you explain that the blacks were doing
Oh,
better back then than they are today?
hold on. How can you say that's just an excuse? The KKK came through and eradicated that whole area, burned it down, killed a bunch of people, no consequences for them.
That's not the way that happened, man. But because of time, how do you explain that the blacks were doing better back then than they are today?
I don't think that they were, but can you tell me what happened in Tulsa? Can you give me the facts on that?
Long story short is that some black and white people, not the whole town, but in the neighborhood somewhere, they had a dispute about something, and
Yeah,
they start arguing.
they accused a black man of raping a white woman.
They start
Of false
arguing about it,
by the way.
which wasn't true, by the way. But they start arguing about it, and one thing led to another one. But I want to ask you, how is it that black people did better then than they are today?
Well, I mean, I think there's a few different things to blame. You know, the war on drugs and the Reagan crack era and stuff like that. I think that definitely played a part in it.
Did Reagan put the dope in their mouth, or did they do that?
Well, when
In
you
their
put a
mouths.
group of, when you make it so that a group of people has no income and they have children that they have to feed and they have families to support, and then you hand them, you know, drugs and say, hey, you can sell this, you'll make some good money doing it. What other option do they have? They have kids to feed. So they start doing that. And
That's
then you say,
amazing.
hey,
You've been brainwashed, man. What the? Are you in favor of affirmative action and reparations and all that stuff for blacks?
yes.
And so, and why? Well, I already know why. But let me ask, do you think that it's fair that there are some hospitals that are giving blacks treatment before they would a white person, and it's all based on because of their color? Do you think that's fair?
I don't really care
Why not?
because black people have been mistreated, especially by the medical field throughout the history of this country.
So do you think it's fair then that if you were sick and you're white, right? I can't tell by your face.
Yeah, yeah. I
You're
know
white.
it's just the makeup, but I am white, I promise.
Anyway, so if you were sick, bad, and then a black person was sick as bad as you, both of you walked into the hospital. Matter of fact, you got there first, and a black person came in right after you, and they said, oh no, hold up, I got to take care of this black person first. Would that be fair to you?
No, but I probably wouldn't be upset about it.
But it wouldn't be fair?
No, I guess not.
Why not?
Because you're mistreating one person in order to treat someone else better.
So what do you think about the fact that white people are under attack right now, and everybody try to make them the excuse and the enemy? What do you think about that?
What do you mean white people are under attack?
They're
Where are you
called
getting that?
racists. They're called white supremacists. They're tearing down statues of white people. They're throwing books away of white authors. They're blaming white people for everything. Is that fair to the whites?
Look, I'm white, and they've never torn down a statue of me.
Because you don't
And if
have
they
one.
did have a statue of me, they wouldn't tearing it down.
And so
I've
is
never
it
been
fair
called
that they're
a-
destroying white statues and putting up a loser statue like George Floyd, an unemployed drug addict with no job and a criminal record?
George Floyd's death.
No. I know about the death. I'm asking you, is it fair to destroy the statue of white men who founded and created the greatest country on this side of heaven and replace it with an unemployed drug addict with a criminal record statue? Is that right?
I'm here for it. I like it because those statues that are getting torn down are slave owners. They were terrible people, you know.
So you're okay with them destroying the white statues and putting up an unemployed drug addict?
I mean, the way you're wording that, calling him an unemployed drug addict.
He was.
I'm sure he was.
With a
but
criminal
at the-
record. Is it fair to
not why
take
they're-
down
That's-
statues
that's-
of... Is it
that's
fair to
not-
take down statues of men?
That's not why they're putting up statues of him. They're putting up statues of him because his death shook the entire world. It drew attention to a problem that's been festering for decades.
Is it
centuries.
fair to take down, because of time, is it fair to take down men who built the greatest country in the world
Yes,
and
on the backs
replace
of
it with an
slaves.
unemployed drug addict with a criminal record?
Yeah, take down the slave owners. Put up the people that cause change, whether it's their life or their death.
Amazing.
Yes.
Do you support
Fully-
abortion?
Yes,
You support abortion. And why do you support abortion?
because it's the woman's right to choose.
And who gave her that right?
Well, I guess you would call that person God. But I say the fact that they are a living, sentient human being, they have the right to choose.
Do they have the right to kill the baby all the way up to the 9th month?
Yes. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about abortion. Here's the thing about abortion. Like less than 1% of abortions happen in the 3rd trimester. And that usually only happens if the doctor determines that there is a threat to the life of the child or the woman. And even if she does miscarry and she doesn't want to go through the trauma of giving birth to a dead baby, and they go in and they cut the dead baby apart and remove the pieces one by one,
Amazing.
that's still called an abortion. That's still classified as an abortion, and that adds to that statistic.
Did you say the 1st trimester?
No, the 3rd trimester.
How many months is that?
That would be 7, 8, or 9 months.
Really?
So most abortions, like 99%, happen in the first 6 months.
That's
of
not
pregnancy.
you. Did you go to a black school or something? Because you sound like a black person with those types of numbers and what you believe.
I sound like a black person because I'm using facts and statistics.
You're using the wrong facts. You've been brainwashed.
No,
Did you go to a black school?
No, I did not.
Well, where's your white smartness?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean.
You sound like a black person instead of a white smart man.
Well, that is terrible. But
So why do
I
you
will
sound like
not
that then, knowing that it's terrible?
I'm sorry, what?
Why do you sound that way, knowing that it's terrible?
No, it's terrible the way you said that. And it's terrible the way you phrased that. I'm not this way because I know it's terrible. I'm this way because I know I'm right. If you look up abortion statistics, 66% happen in the 1st trimester. Round about 33 happen in the 2nd trimester.
That's
And then
amazing.
there's
That's
like
not
that
true.
one-
That's totally not true. But let me
All right.
ask,
Go ahead.
you have 2 kids, is that true?
I do have 2 kids.
So if your wife has said to you during the very 9th month of either one or both of your children, let me see what they call you, Mr. Joker, I'm going to kill your children this 9th month. I don't feel like having no babies. Would you have been in support of that?
I would have supported her right to choose. I
So-
would have been sad about it. I would have been upset, but I would not have stopped her.
So
for
you would have
making
said,
that-
okay, honey, go ahead and kill my child at the 9th month.
Don't think I would have phrased it like that, but again, I would have supported her choice. It's her body.
But did she create the body?
You mean her own body?
Yes.
No,
So how did it become her body?
because she lives in it.
And so you don't love your children enough where you would want them to be born. You would have been okay with a selfish woman killing your children inside the womb.
I do love my children.
But why
Don't
would
get
you have been
twisted.
okay with a selfish woman killing your children inside the womb?
I would have been okay with her making her own choice for her own body.
But how about the choice of your children? Do you think if you had been able to talk to your kids while they were in the womb and you say to them, children, mommy want to kill you, I know you're going to be born next week, but Mama don't want you, and I'm okay. And the kid
You're
said, no, Daddy. Would you have been
you're
okay with that?
you're placing a certain level of sentience on a 9-month-old, basically fetus, that is not there. If you live in someone else's house, they have every right to evacuate you from their house. So if you live in someone else's body, they have every right to evacuate you from their body.
That's amazing, man.
It's their body.
So I got to ask, you split up. I read that you split up with your children's mother, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And this happened last year. Is it true that you admit out loud to being something called pansexual?
Yes.
What's a pansexual? I didn't know what that meant.
Okay, so do you know what bisexual means?
Yeah.
It means you're attracted to like men and women.
Right.
So to me, pansexual means I'm attracted to cis women, cis men, but also trans women and trans men. So I cover everyone on the board.
So what's a sissy woman and a sissy man? What does that mean?
No, not sissy.
What?
Cis, like cisgender. It means you identify as the gender that you were assigned at birth. So you and I are cis men, cisgender. When we came out, the doctor said, "You're a man," and now we're all grown. Okay, we're men. So
you date.
we are cisgender.
That's amazing. What a messed up life, huh? So is it true that you would date a transgender?
Yes.
Have you always been this way?
No, I have not.
Because I read at one time you were a Christian, right?
Yes, for 27 years.
And what made you decide you didn't want to be a Christian anymore?
It just occurred to me that hell isn't real. And I was like, well, if there's no hell, then there's really no punishment for not being a Christian. So it allowed me to explore other things. And I just was like, I'm an atheist.
That's amazing. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is.